be something that's productive. And part of that requires a level of respect. It is a very tough time emotionally for a lot of people. A lot of people are very frustrated, myself included. But as we have these conversations, we have to have that basic level of respect established. So we have shared the link in the Twitch chat. We'll make sure to share it on the other channels. Like, you guys can hop in and be a part of this conversation with us. We do ask though that you remain respectful, because again, the goal of this, even though it's to share your feelings, is to have conversations that spark change in people. And that's not going to happen if we're not being respectful. The other
Yeah,
thing,
yeah, and that, Jasmine, sorry to cut you off, but yeah, it's, I think, when not many of us have grown up or been exposed to Black culture in America. I was fortunate enough to live in an area where I live in a predominantly Black neighborhood in Hayward and Oakland, East Bay, right? I was able to see at a young age the beauty of Black people from the beginning days of my life, and my best friends and my family, since we were kids in diapers, are African Americans, and they're my dearest and most loved friends, right? Not everyone has experienced the Black experience, so I want our Black members to share their experiences, share the injustices that have been caused against them or afflicted against them, because so many people are living in denial that these things don't happen because they haven't actually seen it or they haven't actually experienced it, right?
yeah,
So these stories from our African American members is really important for our community to understand where they're coming from and why this fight is happening.
yeah, 100%. And that was going to kind of be the next thing I said was going to say, was like, you have to be a good listener. Like, this is the time really for the Black community, primarily our Black creators, to be able to share their stories. I know some of you are passionate in the best way, and you want to provide comfort, you want to relate, you want to get involved. But part of what makes somebody a good ally is not overstepping and overshadowing and overpowering the people in that space. So we want it to be an open conversation with everybody, but at the same time, like, let's let the Black community and those people, and that's myself included, of course, speak first and foremost. Like, this is really a conversation for everybody else to listen and to learn. So with that last statement that I wanted to say was just be open-minded. Like Abe said, some of you may have been blessed to grow up in a really diverse place. I myself did not. I grew up in a predominantly white suburb north of Seattle. And so even though you may not have experienced it and you may not be able to understand and you may have your own opinions, people are not making things up. And there's numbers and stats and millions of personal stories behind what it is that you're hearing, which means there has to be a level of validity to it. So if you guys can just remember, again, like, be respectful, listen to the people that are talking, listen to their stories, and be open-minded as we, I guess, proceed with this conversation. But the first thing I wanted to start with is a very quick overview. And when I say quick, I mean, I'm trying to condense 400 years into 30 seconds of what Black history has looked like in America. And the reason being that, for one, we have a global audience, and a lot of you may not understand how we got to this place. And for two, even those of you that are born and raised in the US or are American citizens, the full story isn't always told. And so, kind of, I guess, going backwards again with a really high level overview, it's been almost, I guess, 400 years really exactly since the first slave was brought off Africa into America. So just for perspective, we're 400 years in, almost half a millennium, and we still have a really long way to go. So keep that in perspective as we're talking about this history. Like, this is only the progress we made in the first 400 years. It's probably going to take a lifetime's work for us to keep making sure we're educating ourselves and pushing things forward, because this is something that's kind of been ingrained in our I guess, American society, and we have a really long road ahead. So with that being said, kind of again, like 400 years ago, around the 1620s, Then most of you know in American history, we had the Civil War. So that was kind of like the big thing around that was really slavery. Slavery was really important to the Southern economy. Um, of course, imagine having a company and you don't have to pay your employees. So now being at a place where you don't own property, not only are you're losing property, which is how they defined Black people back then, but losing out on that labor, people were very obviously passionate about that to the point where we had a war that was almost 2 years to be able to get to the place that we wanted where slaves were free. Once slaves were free from the sense that they were no longer slaves, then we entered into this next phase of what is now known in American culture as like Jim Crow laws. So they're very like segregation based. They're laws that were created that oppress Black people, minorities, in a way that makes us like separate but equal, but not really because they separate us in ways that make us not equal. So when you think about some of the segregation laws that were established back in the day, like you can't sit at the most infamous being like Rosa Parks being one of those. You can't sit on the bus, or if you do sit, you got to sit in the back. You can't go to this bathroom. You can't eat here. You know, whites and blacks had to go to completely different schools. It was a big deal for our culture to really like, if we're going to let these people be free, we have to separate them. Like, fine, America, you can make it so everybody's free, but we want no association, right? And this is going up until what, 50 or so years ago. And recent, it's pretty recent when you think about it. Like my grandparents and really my parents were around when people were still fighting for like a basic level of civil rights in our country. Equality and education, like, gosh, basically any way that you can really separate Black people from whites was established through these laws. But through the fortunate leadership of so many civil rights activists, Martin Luther King obviously being one of the most infamous. And then there's a lot of Black leaders, of course, who aren't talked about. But we were able to make some progression. And I know we love to praise these people now, but when you think about how they were viewed in history, Martin Luther King, he wasn't this like this peaceful guy that they promote him as now. The FBI hated him. He was considered one of the most dangerous people in America. Same with other really popular activists, Angela Davis, Stokely Carmichael. Gosh, I could go on and on. All of these people who are really just pushing for a change, they were hindered because either they were ran out of the country, assassinated, marked as dangerous. And so really like this fight for liberation has been partially a slow progress. And I feel like it's part of the reason why there is hesitation now in this generation to have leadership, because look how they were treated. It is a matter of if you are the most peaceful person on the planet, Martin Luther King, the guy who promoted nonviolence, was still somehow listed as one of the most dangerous men in the country. And the reason that I say that is because, again, like we are now at a place where after 400 years of dealing with systematic oppression, racism, the fight for equality, this is really all it's about. Like, this is really not about trying to get revenge for slavery and trying to make sure we get more. I mean, that would be great. Not revenge would be great, but if some kind of, I guess, like apology, even, like people are really just looking for equality, nothing more. Just want to be treated like the human beings that we are, not be judged by, as MLK said, the color of our skin, really just treated as human beings. But this has been, a lot of people are seeing now with this George Floyd case, it being the tip of the iceberg, but we've had several of these movements and these big riots and I guess like fights with passion across time. Again, this is 400 years. This is nothing new for Black Americans. I know, some of you are just learning about it, and it's great. It's better late than never to educate yourself and get involved. But again, for us, this is what being Black is. This is what being Black in America is. It's a constant struggle and fight to be treated just like anybody else, to be treated with a basic level of respect and decency, instead of just being judged for I guess, I don't know who you are, something you can't control. And so with that being said, I just wanted to kind of give you guys, I guess, a little bit of a background. Like I said, that's 400 years in a couple minutes. There's a lot more we could probably get into depth about, but I'm curious for those of you that are on this Zoom call, like what has it meant for you to see this kind of like timeline of Black history and this like constant struggle for the Black community to fight for their rights and for equality?
Dame, where are you?
Yo, so I don't know. I don't know if I have a direct response to that per se, but you know, I've actually been, obviously there's a lot of things that are heavy and a lot of negative things that are happening. I've seen a lot of positive things and been having a lot of positive conversations. I love the global response. I love how big and diverse the protesting has been. And I love that a lot of people are open to conversations that haven't been. But I think for the folks that want to reach out to Black folks at this time, I think that you know you just have to understand. Some people are willing to talk. Like I'm willing to talk. I've been having one-on-ones with my business school classmates, you know, for this whole week because I don't mind having the conversation. I feel like that's kind of part of my responsibility, and I'm able to do it. You know, obviously I'm emotionally affected by things that are going on, but I'm I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but sometimes I'm able to compartmentalize things and still, you know, get my work done, still have conversations. But I just appreciate people that are genuinely curious about other people's perspectives. And I think, you know, that's just really what it's about. Just understanding that the way you've lived your life is not how other people have lived their life, and that's not the experiences they've had. But it's also understanding that every Black person doesn't have the same experience either. So don't go in with the expectation that saying just because I share my experience, you know, a shitload of people have had guns drawn on them, but don't approach everybody like everybody's had a cop put their gun to their head. Like me personally, I haven't had a gun drawn on me, but I saw them draw guns on my dad. So we're not, and maybe some people you didn't even have that experience. You know, I just think that you have to kind of release some of your expectations and have a variety of conversations because a lot of people are gonna feel there's going to be a lot of commonality amongst you know a lot of people's perspectives, but I just encourage you to have more dialogue. Hopefully the dialogue eventually leads to organization and change in different ways, whether it's laws passed and trainings and things like that. But I do think it starts with conversations, and that's why I've appreciated the conversations that I've been having both as a group and one-on-ones this week, and I appreciate the conversation that you guys are putting together. So I apologize, Jasmine, for just making a random comment as opposed to addressing what you just put together. But that's kind of what I wanted to jump on and to say. So shout out to the BeatStars team for putting this together. It's much appreciated. The dialogue is healthy, and I look forward to continuing to be a part of it.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm
Thanks, Dame.
definitely glad you're here. Abe, it looked like though you were about to say something. So I am curious
No,
because you've had, yeah, you know, obviously you're not Black, but you've had a
yeah,
very similar experience when it comes to,
I've had multiple experiences. Like Dame was saying, he's seen guns pulled on his dad. I saw AKs pulled at my dad too, and thrown. My dad was thrown to the ground. I was like 12 years old. But this is, Israeli police. This is in the occupied territories, and just going through a checkpoint, just traveling to see family. I saw my dad ripped out of our car and thrown to the ground, and AKs pointed at him just because of the color of his skin, just browner than someone else there. But they changed their tone when they found out he was an American citizen, and they pulled out his passport, and they sent him right through. But it was a reminder of, definitely a reminder of what oppressed people are dealing with. Just because I wasn't necessarily dealing with that here in the States, but experiencing it over there was big. I've also been thrown into interrogation rooms in airports and stuff. One time on the border of Jordan and Palestine in Jericho, I was traveling to go see my dying uncle in the West Bank from Amman, Jordan, and went through. You have to go through a checkpoint. It's kind of like not checkpoint. It's kind of like a border crossing. Kind of like an airport actually. You bring in your luggage. You bring in your luggage. You go through. It goes to the machine. You get out, and we were racially profiled through there and thrown into interrogation rooms where I had like 4 or 5 soldiers pointing their guns on my head and making me strip naked, embarrassing me at 17, 18 years old, just because of who I am, being Palestinian. So I definitely feel it. My first cousin had a mistaken identity, also again in the West Bank. Mistaken identity he's an American citizen born in America, visiting his dad, who was my sick uncle, he was visiting his dad because he was sick, and went into the grocery store to get his kids some formula. Walks out and there's 4 soldiers waiting outside the store for him, identifying him as someone that he wasn't, and they brutally beat him, and he eventually died in the hospital a couple days later from organ failure. But yeah, I mean, this topic is very close to home for me. I don't like to see institutions within our country being abused by authority, especially by the president. You could tell the president is struggling. He wants to send out military, and he's not being allowed to. And so he's incentivizing police officers to rile things up. You could tell, you could feel it. You could feel it. He's instigating the process. He wants, calling protesters terrorists this morning. This is un-American. It's un-American. Like when people talk about like being un-American, like kneeling in protest for, peacefully protesting, for a cause. But when when the leader of the free world is a blatant racist and a blatant genocidal crazy man that's threatening sending military amongst his own people, which is going to result in possibly thousands of deaths.
Yeah.
It's a scary time. It's a scary time.
Definitely is, and obviously, like Dame said, there are plenty of people who have had positive experiences, myself for the majority of my life included. So when you guys hear us talking about these statistics and talking about this history and sharing these stories, it is going to feel very negative. And we're not trying to blanket everybody's experience, but it is negative for a lot of people. Like this is just the nasty truth of like what it's meant for a lot of people to be Black in America. So just keep in mind again, like, we're not trying to come across in a way that's really negative or bashful or like we live in the worst country in the world. I think that's the thing. All of us are so passionate, Black people included, about this country that we live in. And part of really loving somebody is being able to point out their flaws.
I think Jasmine, people get it confused. We're angry because we love this fucking country, and we want to see it reach its full potential. Yeah. This is why we're angry. We're not angry at America. We love America. I'm telling you, if America represented all people of color, all people of all races, every single American will be draped with the American flag, representing it proudly. Because the flag does not represent everyone in this country, this is why people feel like the patriotism is not there. That you cannot blindly just adopt all ideals. This is what a democracy is made of. This is what we're supposed to dissent. We're supposed to question our authority. We're supposed to bring the people's wants and needs and rights to the table and fight for them. This is actually one of the most beautiful times in America.
Yeah, it's
like for me,
democracy and patriotism too. Again, like it's not. I don't want to blindly just follow. Like in all aspects of my life, I want to challenge what I'm seeing and figure out there's a way that we can do it better. And from what we've seen, there has been. So like I said, I just want you to know, even though people are frustrated, they're not looking for a power move or for revenge. What they're looking for is just like equality, and for the country that they live in to be one that feels like it can be comfortable, safe, and home. Um, so with that being said, just kind of like I guess moving forward, we obviously talked about kind of like the rough overview, but I just want to read some stats that I've read, because a lot of people see racism as like very direct, like I'm going to call you some kind of racist name, or I'm going to, you know, do X, Y, and Z because I don't know, kill you because you're another color. But there's a lot of indirect ways, and that's what we call systemic racism, in which this country can still oppress people in a really indirect way. So some of the ways that that can be done is through employment. The stat is African Americans are 2 times as likely to be unemployed in comparison to the white Americans in this country. Through education as well, Black students are 3 times more likely than white students to be suspended for the same infractions. Criminal justice as well. Blacks make up 13% of the general population, but they make up 40% of the prison population. Housing is another way. Blacks are shown 18% fewer homes and 4% fewer rentals units than whites. Surveillance as well. Black drivers are 30% more likely to be pulled over. And even in something that should be as universal and even as possible, healthcare. One study found that 67% of doctors have a bias against African American patients. So you realize like this isn't just a problem of like we got to stop people from, you know, we can create these laws where Black people can ride on the same bus and can go in the same school. But when there are other indirect ways that are ingrained in our culture, there's a way of of oppressing people in an indirect way, and that's why part of being able to progress forward is to really take a look and educate ourselves in all of the ways that people are, I guess, like are experiencing racism and oppression, so that we can really address not only the core of the issue, but figure out plans of actions for different ways that we can move forward. And then just kind of moving into the topic of police brutality and in specific, I was looking up some stats from this company called mappingpoliceviolence.org. They're a really reputable organization that, I mean, you can actually download the entire report of all the police brutality incidents, and it basically pulls up all the information. But some of the stats that they concluded are Black people are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white people. Black people are 1.3 times more likely to be unarmed than white people. Black people were 24% of those killed, despite being only 13% of the population. 99% of the killings by police from 2013 to 2019 have not resulted in officers being charged with a crime. And that's only talking about charges. We're not even talking about convictions. That's just talking about charges. And 70% of white people surveyed thought police usually use the right amount of force. So when you look at those numbers, you can see, like when we're talking about education, housing, healthcare, police brutality, the fact that these people are getting off, the fact that there's, you know, some people who feel like everything's all right. We've come to this point right now where, which happens every so often, where people are really, really fed up. And that's why you may see some people who don't react in the best way. They take out their frustrations in ways that don't necessarily, I guess it doesn't really add value. It doesn't really push us forward in the right way. But when you think about, again, the 400 years of just what this country has put Black people through, it's kind of put us in a place where there is that level of frustration. And I feel like everybody's starting to see it now too. Like this what's going on is a lot different than it has been in previous years. I always say we kind of had the same thing in 2016 when it was just like right after the election, and there were several incidents back to back to back, and it was like this, but it feels different this time. Like people are really stepping up and stepping in that are outside of the community, and are really educating themselves in a way, and really standing with Black people and saying this really isn't really about black and white anymore. This is just a matter of right and wrong. So I'd love to hear from those of you that are in this conversation, and kind of how this has felt different, or maybe in some ways the same, from, this kind of constant cycle of trying to push forward for race relations.
I think I'm gonna jump in here. I've just been like listening, and I obviously have a lot of like mixed opinions on this, but especially with the protest, I feel like a lot of people are saying, well, if you were peaceful, then people would listen. But when people say that, I keep going back to the example of like Colin Kaepernick took a knee and he got thrown out of his job. So I think right now, majority of people that are at these protests, when it's getting violent, they know it's not the answer. But when being peaceful doesn't work for so many years, what do you think is going to happen? And also, I think that people who are not of color have to think about, well, if my son was unarmed or my daughter was unarmed and was killed by a police officer for a crime they didn't commit, would you be walking down the street with a sign peacefully, or would you be enraged? So I think people have to look at all different perspectives about it, because at this point, everyone's just looking for an answer, and how do we get this message across where it's no longer occurring?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely, like you said, Cami, like I don't know how I would react. Like even me, like I try my best to do things that I feel like are productive, and I know you're the same way, like peaceful protesting or coming up with these initiatives that we've worked on that can really have a long-term impact. But it's hard to not be pissed off and to want to react in a negative way. And this is not even dealing with my family directly.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching somebody else, a stranger I don't even know. Like if this were somebody I were close to, like it's really hard to, I guess the point that you're making, like to judge other people's experiences when you haven't experienced it firsthand. Like to have somebody that's just not only murdered for no reason, but from the people who are supposed to protect you, like it's frustrating. Like who do you call? Like
Yeah.
are the people who are supposed to make us feel safe, yet at the same time, like these are the people that I get scared to interact with sometimes.
Mhm.
And I don't know who to call. Like, you know what I mean? Like we should be able to feel protected. So when you see people, like Cami said, like rioting and doing things, not that makes it okay, but you have to understand, like after years and years of dealing with the same issue, both in a very direct way and an indirect way, and when people are just getting murdered senselessly for no reason, from people that are neighbors, let's talk about Ahmaud Arbery, to people that are supposed to be protecting you, thinking about the police and the government and the ways that they've systemically oppressed people, they're frustrated. And this is how they're choosing to release it. So like we kind of mentioned in the beginning of the call, you have to keep an open mind.
Mhm.
And if you don't want people to have that kind of anger, do your part in trying to progress things forward, in a more positive way. But it's going to require all of us. Like Black people cannot carry the burden to make the change in this country. It's going to require every person that's an American citizen, and even those globally that are fighting for us, because again, this is really just a human rights problem. This
Mhm.
isn't about Black versus white, this team versus that team. It's like really treating people with a different, basic level of respect, and allowing everybody to have the right to live. That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah. And just like another thing with keeping an open mind, which I think is one of the most important things that everyone can do during this time. Like Nickelodeon, I'm not sure exactly what they did. I think they made like a commercial or something, just about what's going on and in honor of George Floyd. And parents were really upset because they said that's not appropriate for children to be seeing. But you also have to think about, there are parents who are teaching their 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds what to do when a cop approaches you. And there are 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds who have been called the N-word or something racist. And so you have to understand that there's another America who this is relevant to, and their kids are already aware. So you have to think about, if my kid isn't aware, maybe this is the time to teach them.
Yeah, yeah. And really youth are going to be the ones that push this forward. Like I said, this is all we've done in 400 years. It's probably going to take another 400 years to keep, hopefully it doesn't take that long, but looking at how we've made very slow progress, it's going to take a while. And yeah, educating the youth is really, really important. I have a daughter, and what
Mm.
I have to educate her on, I don't have to make her fearful and, make her filled with hate, but I also have to be able to educate her on the realities. I saw this tweet. They were talking about the Nickelodeon commercial where it was just like 8 minutes and 45 seconds or 47 seconds, however long exactly George Floyd was under that police officer's knee,
Mhm.
um, of just silence. And they said, if you thought that was uncomfortable, imagine that you weren't able to actually breathe during that time. So
Yeah.
the conversations are very uncomfortable, but like they have
Mhm.
to be had, in order for us to move forward. Again, it's going to take all of us banding together. And part of that is understanding the reality of like the Black experience and figuring out what position you are in, all of us individually, either a part of the community or outside, to push it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So is there anybody else, like, obviously our team and our community as well, we have a very diverse group, which I'm appreciative of, Abe, for creating this team that's full of diversity. We really are a melting pot. Where we aren't diverse is we all require and give each other a basic level of respect. That's something we're all on the same page on. But for those of you on our team or that are tuned in that aren't a part of the community, would love to hear like how this experience, or maybe just watching these things overall and your life.
I see Candy in here, and I know she's got some stories about Detroit.
Oh, I have stories
I've been to
about
Detroit. I've been to Detroit many times. I know there's a lot of stories there. Yeah.
Detroit and now living in
And now it's
Chicago. Can
Chicago.
you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, of course, growing up in Detroit, when I was born in my family, like my parents were pretty well off, middle class, but then when they split, I was thrown into the hood. So lived right down the street from the projects, and it was a totally different world growing up in the fourth and fifth grade and watching the things that were happening. And I have two older brothers, so their experience as teenagers was way different than what we had just moved from. So yeah, the cops, I mean, they let things happen, they plant things in your neighborhood. And then once I moved to Chicago, I would say one experience I had, it was me and some friends of mine, which they were male. They drove here from out of town just to visit, and we were all in the back seat. It was wintertime, so I had on like a hood and a coat, and it was about 8 o'clock. It was dark. It was cold outside. The windows were up. We were pulled over, taken out of the car. The officers tried to search all of us for no reason, didn't even ask for license, registration, or ID. But then when I took my hood and my hat off, because I was like, let me change this scenario. Let me take off my hat so they could see my hair. And they were like, oh, like, let's reframe for whatever they were about to do, because I was a woman and I was there. So it's just things that we deal with on site, like a lot of stuff that we don't have any reason, there's no reason to, things that are uncalled for. And I'm also a realtor. So when we talk about the systemic racism that goes on, especially in places like Michigan and Detroit and Chicago, which Michigan's the most segregated state, Chicago's the most segregated city in the country. Just last week, I had a client, she's a doctor. She makes almost $200,000 a year. And I sent in all her paperwork and her ID, and they would not rent the apartment to her. And it was a rental well below her income threshold. But redlining is one of the things that we deal with in this nation. And it started, us allowing us to live in certain neighborhoods and buy homes. It happens, just like school education, just like colorism in the entertainment industry, which I have tons of artists that are my friends that deal with colorism because they're not light enough when it comes to getting signed to a label or getting the attention they need and getting marketed correctly after they have been signed and given in advance, so they can't meet their goals as an artist. So we deal with a lot of things that's ingrained in every situation, every system, whether it's entertainment, whether it's real estate, whether it's education. We deal with all of it. So, and it's hard for people that don't have these experiences for them to not understand. it's not embedded in their mind because their reality is just totally different. So, you can't blame, but one of the things that can be done is for you to speak up. A lot of my friends, if you have Black friends, people that you've grown up with, you're in a better position to say something, because there's a lot of us that are not in the power to do so. And that's through systematic oppression. So it doesn't mean that this person is less intelligent or less talented, just not in a position because it wasn't given. The opportunities were not given on purpose. So making your voice heard and I think like now it's been awesome to see in Chicago. I don't live in a predominantly Black area. Like I live on the other side of town, but it's so segregated. My friends live on the south side, the west side. It's a different experience over here, and it's kind of rare to see people of color where I'm at, but it was so awesome to see families wearing Black Lives Matter hoodies, of all races. I've seen Asian people out there protesting, sitting on their cars. I've seen, white people with their families, with their babies out here. And it's like, wow, I never felt this type of energy as a Black person ever in life. Like, it's always like, look out, watch where you go, what stores you go to, watch your back. Can't go to this Starbucks, go to this Starbucks. So it felt really good, and it still feels good to have people that are really being involved. But, like Jasmine was saying, George Floyd and all of the others that we're trying to get the laws changed, reform and everything, and indictments, that's just 3 people. I'm glad that he was able to have this effect, but we have a lifetime of people that think about what would happen if there were no cameras. Like, this is normal. It's normal every day. Someone get killed by a police officer. And, it's good to see that it's not just Black people too. So I'm seeing other races get oppressed and murdered and all types of stuff. The police are just going rampant right now. But, for us as Black people, we've dealt with this for a long time. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is nice. It's also a time where you learn kind of what feels like who your real friends are, Like
Yes.
that's the thing too. Like in this situation for Black people specifically, like you're fighting for your rights and you're also losing a lot of relationships, and you're also dealing with like fear and things like that. There's a lot of emotions because it is not, again, this is not about Black versus white. This is just about treating me with a basic level of respect, and seeing your friends stick up and say something and get involved. I feel like it is really meaningful. Like in some ways it can make or break relationships right now.
I was going to say lastly, I feel really bad for people that have to go to work and work for a company that had nothing to say, because this is an outrage. I mean, it's like, it can't be ignored at all. So I know friends that have to clock back in, and I would feel terrible to have to go to a job where it's just like, this elephant is still in the room, but it's even bigger. Matter of fact, the whole tribe of elephants are in the room at this point. And I have to come in and work for you as a company, and you're not saying anything, or even just voicing anything. Send out that mass email if that's what you have to do. And so that's something to think about. If any of you guys work for any companies and you have to walk into work and it's like awkward silence, just think about your coworkers that have to be there dealing with this, not to mention the fact that we deal with it on a daily basis, but this uproar of it emotionally has put us in a different space, way different. Like, we already don't like coming to work, but now it's like, why am I even working here? Like, I'd rather not even work if I have to work for someone that hasn't said anything, So
It's crazy, Candy. Like, as an entrepreneur, right? As a founder and owner of a company, it's always been, I guess, taboo to bring politics and social things into the workplace, right? Everyone just respected everyone's views and stance on politics, and everyone just kind of like kept it neutral. I'm happy that CEOs like me that have been behind the scenes, always in support and doing things on my own personal life, get to bring causes and awarenesses of things that I'm passionate about into the workplace. So for me, this is comfortable, you know. This is comfortable. This is beautiful. This is progress. This is, you know, moving things forward, not just for my employees, but for everyone around them too. So
Yeah, and like I said earlier, we really, and I think I speak for everybody on the team, and primarily like Fanatic and Cami, like I do appreciate when people want to get involved and want to help, but like part of what can be worrisome is, okay, well, is this just a PR move, or are they just doing it now, but then 5 minutes later when the rage is down, they're going to forget about it. And I feel like it speaks to the authenticity of the fact that you really want to make a change because you left it up to us completely. And really, if anything, took it next level, like I've said before, like with your leadership and generosity, like Cami, Fanatic, and I, like we got to make this plan that we can talk about in a little bit, but that really was, again, like for our community, by our community. And it starts with bringing Black employees in your company again. And Abe, you putting all of these Black creators in a position to be entrepreneurs. Because like you said, Candy, it is awkward to have to go to work and not know like where you stand. I mean, I know you guys have all seen the, like, for every dollar a white male makes, a woman makes this, a Black woman makes this, a Black man makes this. It's like half as much. So it's not about talent. It's not about hard work sometimes in certain situations or certain companies. Sometimes it's just about the indirect bias or even intentional bias that people have. So I am very grateful every day, and especially now more than ever, and Cami and Fanatic, I know you feel the same, to work for a company like BeatStars where we can really make a difference and where we can really be like leaders and representatives for our community. And Fanatic, I see you're here now, so I would love to like hear
so
from
proud of you guys.
You are too, like, we say the experience as Black women here, me, Candy, and Cami, but you as like a Black man also have a different experience. So I would love to kind of just hear like your thoughts, how you're feeling, like what what you want to do to kind of keep pushing forward. And I don't know, just give you the floor.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just like, my thoughts are all over the place. Like, I see all the craziness that's happening, all the negativity out there. But at the same time, I'm just like really grateful to work with BeatStars and be here, with Abe pushing away. He's definitely like, I feel a lot more comfortable being that we can talk about this, like in a workspace. So just a lot of thoughts. It's just, it's a great thing that we can have this dialogue about it, because some people just have this underlining thing and they never really talk about it, how they feel or their experiences and stuff like that. And they kind of just, it's an unspoken thing. So now it's in the forefront, and it's good that we can have this dialogue. So I have mixed feelings because I know it's like a huge transition going on and there's a lot of turmoil. Whenever you have change, there's tension. So seeing that side of it, I don't like to look at negativity like that and see people treated, in a negative way, because we're all human beings, at the end of the day. So, but at the same time, I'm really happy that, I'm able to contribute to a positive change and to be part of such driven, wonderful people such as yourselves. It's a blessing. So those are the two sides,
Yeah, it
Appreciate
is. Like you said, you definitely want to be positive and push forward, but then you also are normal. You're human with emotions.
Yeah.
And it's hard to balance that. But that's the great thing, is we have this outlet, especially at work. Work takes up so much time of your day. So it's great that we have this outlet in our work day to be able to create real change. Like Cami, like I know you've been working on like this blog series that you really want us to do, and you can put your energy in that. Like Fanatic, you obviously love music as a DJ and producer and have sent music videos and things that people can listen to. And you know, everything we're doing, it's like we get to take our passions on a personal level and what we want to do to push forward. And you know, again, thank you to Abe for allowing us to do that, because we came up with this really dope plan that, and this is only the beginning. Like, this is now embedded in who we are as a company, being socially aware. And I know, Abe, this has always been who you are as a person. So it's not like, okay, well, now because of George Floyd, we want to just get socially active. Like, we just maybe haven't had the bandwidth, and now we do, and we realize that we can't wait any longer to get involved in these initiatives. Like, this may be the first one, but this isn't the only cause we care about. Like, there are so many other human rights issues in the world that I know all of us want to get involved with and help. And I know, Abe, you want to push forward and put on the forefront as well.
Oh yeah, that's the one thing. That's the beauty about BeatStars. You know, global community, global company. People within our community are suffering from oppression and injustice all around the world, and there's causes that we're definitely going to be getting behind all around the world. You know, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of what we're going to do.
Well, if you're okay with it, Abe, I would really love to share kind of like what we've worked on so far, and
Yeah.
kind of share it with the community.
Go ahead.
Cool. So as Abe said, like, we are a global community, so we do like pride ourselves in fighting for all of our creators, which, you know, considering also the industry we're in, that is, you know, a big portion of that is our Black creators in the Black community. And so, you know, both on a personal level, but on a professional and / industry level, it's like we have no choice really. Like, you have to fight. You have to join the fight. And we're trying to figure out the number of ways in which we can do that. So it started with, again, Abe allowed Cami, Fanatic, and I to create a plan. And we came up with a long list of ideas that we are going to implement. Some of those take longer time than others. And then we have also the larger community and our company that wants their ideas to be included and that care and want to get those rolled out. We just haven't got there yet. But our first kind of, I guess, like step in the right direction was, for one, giving financially. So we gave $10,000 to Black Lives Matter, $10,000 to Color of Change, and then $10,000 to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. So that's $30,000. You got to put your money where your mouth is. I've seen a lot of people make statements, we stand with you guys, or we're going to make sure we give back. And they never say how, they never say how much, they never say proof. It's like this hypothetical thing. And I appreciate, Eve, that you really were like, no, we're going to make the donation and we're going to provide the receipts that we did donate. Like, we're not just talking about we want to do these things. We're trying to figure out the different ways that on a financial level, on a music level, and on an educational level.
And Jasmine, anybody can donate money, right? Anybody that has resources to donate money, anyone can donate money. It's donating money to me. I mean, that's great. That's cool. You know, it's cool to let the community know that you're willing to put your money where your mouth is and stuff. But more importantly are the actual social initiatives that we're building out with this like Beats for Love and the mentorship and all the things you're going to talk about. To me, that's more important. One-on-one change that can happen, that can just become something so institutional, and that will always be like a resource for change. You know, like, money doesn't solve everything. Money doesn't solve everything. You know, it's cool. We made a statement. Sure, we put money to these organizations. Let's pray these organizations actually do good with the money that we give them. You know, we're trusting in them, right? But at the end of the day, I'm the kind, like, we're action-driven people at BeatStars. You know, so it's like, if we're going to do things positive and we're going to create positive change in people's lives, like, we need to do it ourselves. You know, we need to create the technology. We need to create the structure for it, right? And that's how you scale and measure like real change, rather than just throwing dollars at organizations.
Yeah, it's not a one-time thing. Like, these are real long-term, it's a long-term commitment that we're making through these other initiatives. Obviously, you know, starting with the donation to empower other people who are on the front lines of the fight. which if you guys didn't see, now you can add Black Lives Matter, Color of Change, and NAACP LDF as individual collaborators. So we still have the Beats for Love. This is a part of Beats for Love, but if you want to kind of equally donate to all causes, because we are still supporting the COVID-19 relief efforts. So if you kind of want to equally spread your generosity across all, you can just add the Beats for Love collaborator as a collaborator. But if you want to give back to any of these specific organizations, you can search their name and they have accounts created on BeatStars. So that was one of the ways that we kind of paired an easy way.
I saw on Twitter a question from one of our users asking if those charity initiatives, Color of Change and Black Lives Matter and the NAACP, are going to be always a part of Beats for Love from now on.
Yeah, I mean, Abe, I think, do you want to answer kind of like our plan?
The plan is to make individual profiles so people can pick and choose what organizations they want to donate to. So we'll leave it into the hands of our creators. So those charity profiles will exist as long as people still want to send money their way.
Cool. Yeah, that's great news. That's another example of like this long-term commitment. I'm trying to save the best for last, but we're also creating some like content and like resources for content too. Like we really want to continue to put like creators who have like socially aware songs or live performances that we found and create this like I guess musical blog series or whatever you want to call it, where you guys can learn about the story that we're trying to tell through music. So definitely feel free to check that out once it's up. Also educational content that's based around, because that's the core of this too. Like we have to educate each other on the issues at hand, the importance of voting and things like that. Like it's not enough, like Abe said, to give financially. Like we have to do the other aspect too. You can give your money, but money only goes so far. In order to make real change, there's real steps that have to be made. And so through consistent, socially aware educational content, that's something we're trying to create. And then the last part of this phase 1 of our social awareness initiative is this BeatStars mentorship program. And this mentorship program is really to, I guess the best way I can describe it was to bridge the gap between who one is and what he or she can accomplish with the right resources and the right influences. And so if you are somebody that would love to be a mentor, we are accepting applications now. And our goal really just is to start influencing the youth, especially minority and underprivileged children, be able to give them scholarships, be able to provide the tools that they need to be able to explore this talent that they have in music and music production, and really like have a person that can help guide them in the right direction, both creatively and personally. Because again, this isn't just something we can do one time. We have to make long-term investments in our community and in the community of underprivileged children and of minorities, and really get ingrained. Like that's part of the problem with the people in leadership in our country is they're not involved in these communities. They don't really know what they go through, and they're not really interested. We're trying to, again, bridge that gap and really provide people with the resources if they don't have them, and with the leadership in their lives if they don't have that. Because considering, again, what this country, what history has looked like, there are obviously a lot of kids who don't have good influences in their life, or who are in communities that may not influence them in the right direction. So I'm really, really excited about this mentorship program, because this is really going to change the course of people's lives. Like this is so beyond 2020 and what we're feeling right now, like the trajectory and the direction in which these kids are going to go, because now the things that typically limit them, the ability to have resources, the ability to have people that can guide them in the right direction and keep them on track, we're helping close that gap. So if you want to, like I said, apply to be a mentor, that's the first step with this inaugural mentorship cycle is we have to find mentors to understand how many mentees we can have in the program. And so if you really are passionate about making a change in the youth lot and the lives of youth, especially Black creators, like we need these youth to be able to have people that they can look up to and relate to. And so, like, if you've been able to get to a place in your life where you've been able to overcome things and you're on a path that's the right direction, like, share that knowledge and that wealth and I guess those tools with the younger community.
Yeah, guys, this is like for me like the most exciting initiative I think we'll be doing, because most of you guys don't know, right? But I have, I guess, a lot of a lot of personal relationships with producers that I've developed friendships with here at BeatStars that I would essentially call that mentorship that I've been doing for like the last 11 years, right? Like having personal one-on-one relationships with some of our younger creators that are just getting started, trying to get their feet wet. They've got great music and have been a resource for them in their lives, guys. Like calls and video shares and even a lot of kind of empowered people in the team to be doing that same kind of thing. And Mike Trampy has been a mentor, in BeatStars to a lot of creators. I'm telling you right now, guys, people that want to become a mentor, okay, it's the most beautiful responsibility you'll ever experience in your life, ever. The results that you see in the people that you mentor over time, the incremental results, the incremental growth, the knowledge that you share and the information that you share and you have no idea how satisfying to your soul that it is. Never asked for like a penny or any type of reward from the people that I've mentored, right? It's the satisfaction of like making a difference in someone's life. So I challenge people that are interested to become a mentor, that have had success, that have had ups and downs, that have had struggles but have gotten through them, and that can really relate to people that are going through it, but at the same time provide hope and inspiration for them. I challenge you guys to sign up.
Yeah, definitely. I put the link in the Twitch chat, but if you guys go to beatstars.world/racial-equality, you can find a list of all the initiatives we talked about today, including that mentorship program if you're interested in applying.
I'm signing up, by the way, so.
Yay, that's awesome. I don't have any like creative skill, but the way I'm trying to give back is by helping, organize this and push it forward.
There you go.
Definitely, like Abe said, like it's so rewarding to influence people's lives. Like there is no price, there's no price equivalent to like really changing somebody's life and helping guide them in the right direction and helping them again explore their full potential, because we have a long way to go. We can't rely on the current system at hand to put those kids in a position where they are able to hit their full potential, and we're trying to do our part through this program and making sure that happens in as many children's lives as possible.
And then the mentorship program, the mentees are going to funnel into the scholarship program.
Yeah.
And so even take it a step further, once we've identified, mentors will be right, Jasmine, mentors will be nominating their mentees for the scholarship program.
Yep. And so we'll obviously be accepting a larger number of mentees, but there are going to be, we want the mentees to really take advantage of the time and effort that you guys are putting in this program as well. And so after the mentorship cycle is over, which is around 10 months, kind of like the average school year, we are going to ask the mentors to, kind of recommend their mentees, tell their stories of growth, tell the ways in which they've grown musically as well. And then we'll choose a certain amount. Again, this is our first year, so we're trying to figure out like how many people are involved, but choosing those people to give like a scholarship to, like a real dollar amount scholarship to, that can help continue to push them into higher education and push them into the creative arts. And again, trying to make this change that's not just a in the moment influence, but really like setting up these children for the rest of their lives by providing them the education and the resources and the right influences in their life.
Cool. Exciting stuff.
Yep. So like I said, I guess just to kind of wrap it up, just do what you can to help push these initiatives forward, whether that be assigning, some of these donors on being a part of the Beats for Love campaign, whether that be educating yourself. We have resources on that page. Google is free. There's plenty of resources there. Learn your history, listen to the stories of people in the Black community, support Black creators, get involved. It's so easy. Like this is a long fight, but there's so many easy ways you can do your part. And so if you're looking for some places to start, of course, like I said, go to beatstars.world/racial-equality. And we have, again, the Beats for Love stuff on there, the mentorship, a couple education pieces, like that will be a good foundation. But again, this is going to be a lifelong fight, and a fight that surpasses your lifetime. And so you have to make sure that if you really want to make a difference, that you can commit yourself to consistently learning and educating yourself and trying to grow as a person and push these causes forward. So I'm really glad, again, that we were able as a community to have these conversations to help educate and that we're implementing initiatives that are going to help push this forward, because again, it's a fight that's going to take all of us being a part of for us to make some progress. So with that being said, I guess that's it for me. Abe, do you kind of have any closing words or thoughts?
No. Thank you for hosting the conversation, Jasmine. Thank you to Jamel and Cami for, making us better and putting these initiatives together with you, Aaron, the team, Mike, Dev, everyone, Greg. I mean, the whole team is locked in. We're just so happy to have you guys represented within the company and make your causes and your voices heard. So we're excited about, and thank you, Candy, out there for doing the podcast and representing on the podcast. Beat the Block, go download it now. I'm sure you guys will be talking a lot about this stuff soon in your upcoming episodes. So
We actually have a new
one
episode.
that dropped.
There you go.
Yeah.
today, right?
Yeah, so it dropped today. So yeah, we'll be having a discussion about everything that's going on. We do talk about shed light on stuff that's going on now and how creatives can work on, dealing with this at the same time, because I know it's been hard for a lot of people I've spoken to dive in and create. They don't know which way to go. And
yeah, I was just having this convo with someone and multiple people, and everyone's telling me how they have zero creative juices right now. They can't create, they can't write, they can't produce because of everything that's going on. And I tell people that I was telling those artists, I said, listen, you don't have to create right now.
Yep.
This is a historical moment. Like, you have to experience this as a Black American in this country. You have to experience all of this, really, really experience this, because your music that will come out of this is going to be so lit. Yep. It's going to be so lit. But if you don't absorb it, if you don't experience it to the full effect, and you're worried about writing a song or making a beat right now, that's not the way to go. That's not the way to go. Like, really, really take in this moment.
It's one of those silver linings. Like, as much as we've been talking about Black oppression and everything else, like, there's been so much beauty that's came out of it, and a certain level of strength that our community has because of the things that we've gone through. And I'm sure the same, like you said, with the creative arts, like, there's just going to be so much good stuff that comes of it. Think about how many like artists, socially conscious artists we've had, especially in the 90s, that like created just this timeless music because of their experiences. So despite everything that's going on, it's
if the inspiration's there, and you're feeling the inspiration to write about this moment, like right now as it's happening, I encourage artists to do that, right? But if they can't find the creative juices, for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Take it in. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you.
All right,
Definitely,
everybody.
like I said, check out that link, beatstars.world/racial-equality if you want to sign up to be or apply to be a mentor or want to get involved in anything else we're doing. Definitely go to that page. And you know the BeatStars team, our social medias, like I would love to hear ideas too. Like we're only a finite amount of people. If you have other suggestion or ideas and ways we can get involved, definitely bring it to us, because again, this isn't about us or some PR move. We really want to make a difference, and we really want to hear from people in the community.
Oh,
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well,
Bye,
have a
everybody.
good Friday.
Thank you, everyone.
peace out.
Tuning in, everybody.
Peace.
Stay safe.